learner. My name is F.A.M. Ngwiri and I practice within the financial services industry in Kenya. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing about portfolio management. The focus of today's class, ladies and gentlemen, is contemporary issues and emerging trends. We are going to narrow down our discussion towards investing in international markets. Now, what we're going to discuss under this wonderful topic of contemporary issues is just the general issues or the issues which are being discussed along in foreign markets and also in our local markets right here in Kenya. We are going to discuss about the considerations before investing in foreign markets, and then we're going to move ahead and discuss about the methods of investing in foreign equity securities, and thereafter we're going to look at the factors to consider before investing in foreign markets. So let's dive right in, ladies and gentlemen. We start by mentioning the following, ladies and gentlemen, that the considerations to be the considerations to be factored when investing in foreign markets, international markets include, so put it like that. Number one, we talk about political factors, or what we call geopolitics, political factors. What we're saying is how peaceful is the country in as far as politics is concerned. So this is a consideration that you need to factor in. So I just put a bullet over there and say geopolitics and its influence on foreign direct investment. Geopolitics and its influence in or on foreign direct investment. Number two, ladies and gentlemen, so just going to bring about some distinction there. Political factors, going to be very brief, not too detailed. Number two is economic factors, right there. So probably, maybe at that point you may not really get to understand what we are talking about when discussing about investing in international markets. Let me just bring you up to speed. Please forgive me for that. So we are saying that this is, say for example, Kenya. We want to invest in Uganda, right there. Possibly maybe in Tanzania. That. I'll use TZ to denote Tanzania, UG to denote Uganda, and K to denote Kenya. So what are the considerations before a Kenyan wants to invest in Uganda or a Kenyan wants to invest in Tanzania? The first factor, ladies and gentlemen, is political factors. How is the politics or the political temperatures right over here? Could be, say for example, in one of the countries over here, you could be able to have a regime that is kind of dictatorial. It may not really be able to allow for foreign direct investment to come into their countries like that easily. The second point right over here, we're talking about economic factors. So the economic factors of these countries, because we're saying that the Kenyans over here want to invest in Uganda, the economic, so the factors, the talking points over here should be the GDP, inflation, interest rates, and possibly exchange rates, amongst other factors there. So when talking about economic factors, we say the influence of GDP, interest rates, Interest rates. This is gross domestic product. The interest rates, exchange rates, change rates. We're talking about inflation. All these have an influence towards Kenyans investing in Uganda and investing in Tanzania. If, for example, the GDP is not, is probably maybe the growth rates in Uganda and Tanzania are not up to the speed that the Kenyans actually want, then they would be able to prevent them from investing in those countries. Because probably maybe you're holding a portfolio right over here. This is just an example, guys. And probably holding a portfolio over here that also wants to grow. You want to grow the value of the portfolio. And the only way to do it is to invest in those economies that also produce significant growth in GDP, inflation, rather GDP only, and maybe inflation rate. You'd want to have modest amount of inflation because you're saying the purchase of goods and services or purchasing power in Uganda and Tanzania, if you put it on a Kenyan scale, it might also be quite expensive for the Kenyans to actually put it to invest in Uganda. There, the interest rates, the prevailing interest rates, a 10-year bond yield, is it, or maybe the lending rates within Uganda and Tanzania might not really be favorable. Over there, the exchange rates, Kenya shillings to Uganda shillings, probably the Ugandan shilling is actually strengthening more than is actually strengthening more than the Kenya shilling. Then that actually would present an opportunity for the Kenyans to actually invest in Uganda shillings, like that, because we're seeing the Uganda shillings is actually strengthening against the Kenya shilling. So that's what we're saying. Currency risk or currency exchange rates needs to be factored in or needs to be considered when investing in international markets. I'm just using this as just an example over here. These same factors also affect when you want to invest even in European countries and also in the US there. So domestic factors, we're saying that the influence of GDP, interest rates, and exchange rates, inflation on the investment manager's portfolio, on the investment managers. We go up over here, portfolio. So those have an impact on the investment decisions as to whether you're going to invest in Uganda or Tanzania or wherever, Europe or even the US. Next point, we're talking about socio-cultural factors. Number 3, social-cultural factors. Socio-cultural factors, and we're saying these socio-cultural factors considered needs to be based on cultures and beliefs. So we're saying that the cultures, beliefs, and maybe traditions of a given country have an impact on investments, on foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investments. This is how so. We can come back over here to a diagram over here, to a drawing. We're saying that if we are saying we have a predominant, if just for example, if you're saying that in Kenya that we are predominantly maybe say for example Muslim or are believed to have the Muslim faithful or have a following towards the Muslim proposition, then we would only seek to invest in those countries that have got Sharia compliant laws or products. So those are what we're saying, the cultures and beliefs. And we're also talking about maybe say if Kenyans, for example, are also predominantly Christian, then it would mean that they would want to invest in countries probably that have got maybe the norms and the cultures that are almost similar to what the Kenyans actually believe in. Like that. So that also has an influence in foreign direct investment. foreign direct investment from that country, from Kenya, cannot be able to come into Uganda as expected, because probably maybe there's a barrier in terms of cultures and beliefs and norms, as well as traditions. So moving on, we can talk about, I'm just being very brief, number 4, and for consistency purposes, I was supposed to underline this using red. Forgive me for that. Here, socio-cultural factors. And number 4, we're talking about technological factors. Technological factors. And we're saying technology, the impact of technology, of course, following the adverse effects of COVID-19 pandemic, led to innovations of how individuals can actually make, conduct meetings, trainings, and even modes of payment. It can also be done through using the over the internet there. So of course, individuals came up with payment platforms that can allow seamless seamless transfer of funds without any risk over there. And that means what? Precise point is this: commercial banks actually used to have probably maybe a given number of tellers, and even now what you're saying, automated teller machines. Now you're saying that individuals to some extent are not going to automated teller machines as the way they used to. They are now, because of the innovation that has been done by the CB, Commercial Bank, towards payment platforms online, as well as mobile banking, has actually transformed the commercial banking ways of doing business over here. Now, in terms of the tellers, you don't find as many tellers as the way they used to be, because you can be able to conduct your transactions online or via your mobile phone. So we're saying advancements in technology, has allowed individual and institutional investors to invest in foreign equity securities or foreign securities, removing bottlenecks, removing bottlenecks that were previously in place. Because we're saying that nowadays you can even trade using just a mobile banking, just using your phone. You can even trade on cryptocurrencies, you can even cryptos, and you can also trade on currencies, you can do also on commodities, just by the confines of the convenience of your phone. So you don't really have to physically go to an exchange or even do it on online or using a computer machine and so on and so forth. That's the way it is. That's what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So technological factors also have brought about ease and the way individuals actually transact. So in a country that is technologically savvy, then there's going to be a challenge in terms of how you can be able to execute investment decisions there. So if countries are not moving with a fast pace at which technology is actually growing, so you'd expect then there is going to be a hindrance in terms of receiving foreign direct investment there. 5 there. So we talk about social, cultural, technological, and then there's ecological factors. Our commercial banks are financial services firms, financing initiatives are financial services firms financing initiatives that drive or that cater for climate change, that cater for climate change, cater for climate change. That is a question mark over there. Commercial banks right over here, what are they financing? Who are they providing loans to? Are they providing loans to individuals and institutions and for a noble cause that are geared towards climate change or that are geared towards conserving the environment? My apologies. That's the question that you should be asked. So if commercial banks over here, CBs, are financing, say, activities that pollute the air, maybe even geared towards, maybe to some extent, civil rights, or maybe civil rights, ecological is geared towards the environment, sorry. So it's civil rights is probably maybe legal environment. So pollute the air and maybe conserve, or maybe are geared towards maybe bodily harm, causing bodily harm, like that. Say, for example, I'm just using this as an example, BAT, British American Tobacco Cigarettes, producing company. So what are commercial banks' activities geared towards? Are they geared towards polluting the environment or providing finance to farms that pollute the environment? Or are they providing loans to institutions that are going to produce products that cause bodily harm, including cigarettes, alcohol, and so on and so forth like that? That's what we should be able to consider under the ecological factors. And that really affects. So if BAT is trying to seek financing or investors want to invest in BAT, and then there's going to be a deterrence, there's going to be some foreign direct investment may not really come because they're saying that the element of ecological factors are going to prevent them from receiving finance from commercial banks or from maybe say investors in foreign countries their own. So that is ecological factors. And we move on to this other side. We discuss other factors. Here, after ecological environment, we move ahead and discuss about legal environment, legal factors. And we're saying under legal factors, we talk about the impact of regulatory change on securities holding. So if initially the allocation or the preferred allocation from the regulators was saying it was going to be 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, like that, all a quarter like that, we are saying that it changes and says that this is equities, fixed income, derivatives, and alternatives. It changes and says that the preferred portfolio should have something to do with something over here, 0.35, and here is 0.15, for example, like that. This is 2.5. So it means that the portfolio holding or foreign direct investors would have an appetite. If initially they had an appetite for this, they'll not be able to provide financing to this part over here as much as the way they did because of that regulatory change. We're also saying activities that are geared towards civil rights, like that, and so on and so forth, might also be contributory towards foreign direct investment. Individual investors or institutional investors may not be willing to invest in countries that do not follow or are not observant of civil rights or civil activism, civil activists, and so on and so forth like that. So that is part of the legal factors there. So it would deter foreign direct investments. Countries would not be able to invest in those countries which do not follow or do not have civil rights. So other factors include, other factors over here include, and we're talking about something to do with country risk. So we're talking about country risk. This is the risk that is posed by a country, especially in trying to determine maybe in terms of its credit rating, its ability to borrow from international markets, say maybe from the World Bank, the IMF, and so forth. So this country risk is also a factor that deters foreign direct investment or investing in international markets. Then we're also talking about maybe transaction costs. Transaction costs in the foreign country where you would wish to place an investment. If the transaction costs are actually high, then that would deter participation in foreign direct or in foreign or international markets. The next point over here is currency volatility. Currency volatility. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, I had discussed right over here about the exchange rates. So probably maybe I may not it would not be necessary for me to explain this point again because I already talked about it in the currency exchange rate, and I said the currency, how erratic is the currency exchange rate. Maybe say, for example, the KES versus the Uganda shilling, like that. Is it very volatile? At one time, is the Kenya shilling losing ground against the the Uganda shilling, or is the Uganda shilling losing ground against the Kenya shilling? How erratic that moves would affect foreign direct investment or participation in international markets. We're also seeing the final point is, liquidity. When in participating in international markets, liquidity is a key concern, and maybe you're investing in markets that do not provide liquidity or are not as liquid as maybe say foreign markets. Maybe emerging markets may not provide that element of liquidity as much as foreign markets would do. So that would deter investors in participating in international markets, there. So having discussed the considerations when investing in international markets, we can then move on and discuss about the methods that are used in investing in foreign equity securities. So methods of investing in foreign equity securities. We can do that right on this other side here. Methods of investing in foreign equity securities. Methods of investing in foreign equity securities. Methods of investing in foreign equity securities. So how do we invest in foreign equity securities? The first method is we can mention American depository receipts. Number one, American depository receipts, what is also called as ADRs. Under ADRs, we say that are a convenient way, are a convenient way to buy foreign stocks or foreign securities. To buy foreign securities. Convenient way to buy foreign securities. Foreign companies use American depository receipts or ADRs. Use ADRs to establish a presence. In the US markets. And sometimes sometimes have some capital, sometimes require capital. These are what we can say a convenient way to buy foreign securities. They're saying foreign companies use ADRs to establish presence in the US markets and sometimes require capital and sometimes require capital. I'll move on this other side right here. So we say that each ADR that a foreign company issues, represents underlying share, an underlying share, I'm not reading it properly. Underlying share or number of underlying shares. They are listed, traded. They are listed, traded, and settled just like shares of the US companies. Settled just like shares or securities. It's like securities. Of US companies. What are we saying? Each ADR that a foreign company issues represents an underlying share or number of underlying shares. So an institution over here issues depository receipts based on the number of shares right there. They are listed, traded, and settled just like securities of US companies on the NYSE or the NASDAQ. Let's move on to the second one. Global depository receipts. Global depository receipts. So for consistency, underline in red. We're saying that a depository receipts or depository receipt are depository receipt, or we say, let's just describe what it is. A bank, pardon me for that, a bank issues shares of a foreign company in international markets, typically in Europe, and makes them available, to to investors within and overseas, to investors within and outside a country, outside a country, outside a country. Let's stop there first and we proceed. A bank, maybe a depository bank, issues shares of a foreign company in international markets, typically in Europe, and makes them available to investors within and outside a country. So this is the country here. This bank or a firm over here issues, makes a deposit in terms of the shares with this bank over here. This bank then issues depository receipts in foreign markets, like that. So once it issues foreign depository receipts in foreign markets, investors in Kenya, in Uganda, can actually invest in those securities in those other countries once they've been issued there. So that's a simple way of how to invest in foreign securities. So we're saying that a bank issues shares of a foreign company in international markets, typically in Europe, and makes them available to investors within and outside a country. So that is it for global depository receipts, but we may proceed as a conclusion, as a parting shot, and we can say that many global deposit GDRs, many GDRs are denominated in USD, US dollar, but some may also be issued. Some may also be issued in euros, and are traded on the LSE, London Securities Exchange, or Luxembourg exchange. So many GDRs are denominated in USD, but some may also be issued in euros and are traded on the LSE, Luxembourg, or Luxembourg exchanges, amongst other exchanges there. Once we've discussed the second one, which you're saying is global depository receipts, we move over on this other side and discuss others. Foreign direct investment. Number 3, foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment. And we're seeing under the foreign direct investment right here that one is expected to open a global account, with a broker, in your home country, e.g. Fidelity, or to open an account with a local broker in the target country. In the target country. That is it for foreign direct investment. You decide that this is Kenya, you want to invest in Uganda, you go and open, say, for example, a CDS account, Central Depository and Settlement account in Uganda. Then, once you open a CDS account in Uganda, you can be able to invest or purchase securities as the way you'd actually wish. Of course, when currency flows from Kenya to Uganda like that, we expect to have that what we call exchange rate or conversion exchange rate between Kenya and the Kenya shillings and Uganda shillings there. So you need to convert the Kenya shillings into Uganda shillings for you to be able to participate and invest in securities in Uganda. That's what you're saying, direct investing. And so we're saying that one is expected to open a global account with a broker in your home country, e.g. Fidelity, or to open an account with a local broker in the target country right there. So there are two ways there. So first of all, open a global account with a broker in your home country. So in your home country, which has got if your country has got, say this is Kenya, has got a global broker over here, then that's one of the ways you can be able to participate in foreign markets, and you'll be able to trade using that broker over there. And the second case is not just given you over here. You decide to open a CDS account right over here, and then of course you convert the Kenya shillings into Uganda shillings so that you can be able to participate in foreign markets there or invest in Uganda. We're saying number 4, guys, global mutual funds. Mutual funds. Global mutual funds is also another way. Pardon me, I keep underlining with black. Global mutual funds. We're saying here, one can opt for a mutual fund. One can opt for a mutual fund that focuses on international equities or fixed income. I said opt for a mutual fund that focuses on international equities, focuses on international equities or fixed income, or fixed income, or fixed income, or fixed income, or fixed income. That's it for global mutual funds. One can opt for a mutual fund that focuses on international equities or fixed income. That's it, by investing in a pool of products. So this mutual fund accepts funds all over the world. And then it is, of course, professionally managed by a portfolio manager right over here. And so now this is Kenya. You are the one who's actually invested in that mutual fund that could actually be focused, maybe say, or divided into two, maybe fixed income and maybe equities like that. So this is Kenya. Investors actually invest in fixed income part. They also have an option to invest in the equities international markets. Mutual funds that are available to international investors. Number 5, we're talking about multinational companies. Number 5, multinational companies. And here we can be able to say that occurs when domestic companies, it occurs when domestic companies, when it occurs, saying that it occurs when domestic companies that desire significant sales, that drive significant sales, that drive significant sales right over here from abroad. So let me Now highlight the salient points. So when domestic companies, or it occurs when domestic companies that drive significant sales from abroad are purchased, full stop there. For example, we are saying if we have Coca-Cola company in the US market over there, Coca-Cola, significant sales of Coca-Cola actually come, ladies and gentlemen, from foreign or from maybe the customers who are actually abroad from the US there. So Coca-Cola, e.g. Coca-Cola, e.g. Coca-Cola. So significant sales of the company, yes, it's an American company, but significant sales or significant revenues of Coca-Cola actually come from outside the country there. That's how you can be able to participate in investing in international markets, how you can be able to invest in international markets over there. You could also invest in international markets based on using, foreign, forex trading. Number 6, forex trading, where you buy and sell currency pairs of companies which are, or not companies, buy and sell currency pairs of countries or exchange currencies. Say, for example, Euro USD stroke CHF or Euro USD. So investing in the Euro USD currency pair using forex trading, you are also in a way investing in international markets there. So this is also another way of how you can be able to invest in international markets, amongst other ways. But these are the most common ways of how you can be able to invest in international markets. Now, to conclude, we will discuss about the factors to consider when selecting an investment stroke asset class. The first one is security. Let's talk about when investing in asset classes, they need to provide some element of security such that it cannot actually be stolen by someone or cannot be purchased by someone unless you actually authorize for that. Number 2, liquidity. Securities must at least provide some element of liquidity at short notice. So when you want to sell off your asset class, or maybe say if it's real estate, then you can be able to do so with relative ease. That is liquidity. Number 3, asset classes should be able to generate some element of return. So an asset class or an investment should be able to generate some return. There are times when they may not be able to generate positive returns, but at least after some time, an investment or an asset class should be able to generate for you some return. There, number 3, growth. They should be able to maintain their purchasing power. So growth is also a significant element of it. And of course, growth is tied with inflation. It's tied with the inflation. So securities should be able to actually grow in terms of capital gains there. So these, having discussed about these factors to consider when selecting an investment, we can be able to end this session, ladies and gentlemen, so that I can be able to give you an assignment for you to be able to just review. So the assignment that I have for you today here, about explain the methods of investing in foreign equity securities. Explain the methods of investing in foreign equity securities. That is what I want you to go and break down and understand, so that you can be able to and comprehend this part of investing in international markets. Thank you for being with Manifested Publishers. God bless you.
Hello learners, welcome again to Manifested e-learning platform. Today I would like us to progress with public finance, and we are going to look at the second topic. Our second topic in public finance is about establishment of public funds in public sector. That is topic 2, which is establishment of public funds in public sector. Establishment of public funds in public sector. Remember, when we talk about public funds, we simply refers to the funds that belongs to the members of the general public, or we can also refer to them as government funds, and they are simply funds that are created by the government with one agenda or with one main objective, that is to benefit the members of the general public. In this particular topic, as we dig deeper and deeper, we will see also different types of public funds. But for today, or for now, I would like us first of all to see the subtopics that we are going to look at in this particular area. So our first topic will be the provision of establishment of public funds. So subtopic 1, subtopics. Our subtopic number 1 will be provision for establishment of public funds. Provision for establishment of public funds. Provision for establishment of public funds. So in this particular area, we are going to see some of the provisions that guides the establishment of these particular funds. Remember, you cannot just come up, wake up one day and you opt to come up with a certain fund. So you have to be guided by certain provisions and the constitution of that particular country. So we look at that when it comes to the analysis, and we see some of those particular acts. Then we look at subtopic number 2, which will be the justification of establishment of public funds, justification of establishment of the public funds. So in this particular area, we will see why do we need to create public funds, or what is the rationale that is behind creation of public funds. That is rationale of establishing these particular public funds. Can a government operate without these particular public funds? So we'll also see some of the importances of the same, or why do we need to establish these particular funds. From there, number 3, or our subtopic number 3, we look at the consolidated fund, the consolidated fund. We also remember consolidated fund is part of the public fund. So we will see more about the consolidated fund, and I had said there before that as we continue with this particular topic, we will also see some of the examples of the public funds, especially those ones that are established in our country. So one of them will be the consolidated fund. Then our next subtopic will also look at the other fund, that is number 4, that is establishment of the contingency funds, the establishment of contingency funds, contingency fund. A contingency fund, which is also part of the public fund. These are simply funds that are created to cater for emergencies. Remember, in a country, an accident can occur or something can crop up which was not planned or which was not well contemplated by the government, and therefore sometimes we tend to create contingency fund to cater for the same. So again, you will see more about contingency funds. The other fund that we'll also look at, which will be now part of subtopic number 5, is the establishment of equalization fund. Equalization fund. A fund that is created by the government so that we can try to empower and make the marginalized areas to grow, at least so that at least we can make them at par with the other developed counties. The country of Kenya, we have 47 counties, and some of these particular counties, they are not well developed. In fact, some of the areas are marginalized, and therefore we create equalization fund so that at least we can try to allocate these marginalized areas more money so that at least we can make them grow and attain the level of other developed counties. Then we'll also look at a subtopic number 6, that is county revenue sources. County revenue sources. County revenue sources. County revenue sources. So at this particular subtopic, we will see some of the sources of the sources of revenue of the county government. Remember, with the effect from the year 2010, when the government of Kenya was devolved, we now have the national government and we have the county government. The national government raises its finances majorly from taxes, but also we have county government that also raises money so that at least also it can achieve its objectives. For instance, you see there is like they can get like donations, they can get like grants, they can get like parking fees, they have like land rates, licenses, and all that. So you see some of the sources of county revenue sources. These are some of the topics that we are going to cover in these, some of the subtopics, that we are going to cover in this particular topic of establishment of public funds in public sector. Now we need to proceed and we need to discuss, and we start with topic number 1, that is provision for establishment of public funds. That will be my first subtopic. My first subtopic is provision of establishments. Establishment of public funds. of public funds. Establishment of public funds. We are simply saying that in this particular subtopic, establishment of public funds, we need to know what is a public fund, and again we need also to know some of the provisions that have been set aside so that can dictate the establishment that should be followed in the process of establishing these public funds. So we are simply saying that there are different types of funds that are established by the government, but one person cannot wake up one day and come up with a certain fund. There is a protocol, there is a procedure, there is a system that is put in place that is supposed to be followed in the process of establishing these particular public funds. And again, we are saying in our constitution, because there is a provision for the creation of public funds, there is also guidelines that are meant to be followed when it comes to establishment. And again, after we establish, then thereafter, remember that particular public fund is supposed to operate, and therefore also how that particular procedure is supposed to operate is also guided by the provisions that we have in our act. So when we talk about public funds, what are we simply talking about? Public fund, we are simply saying that this is a fund that is created by the government with an objective of benefiting the members of the general public. So a fund that is created by the government for the purpose of benefiting the members of the general public. So I can put it here that a public fund is a fund created by the government as per the constitution and it is meant to achieve its objective as per the act. Its objective as per the act, simply because we are saying we have different types of funds. So the fund that is created, for instance, the consolidated fund, it is there to achieve its objectives. Consolidated fund, it is there again to achieve its objective. And again, when we talk about also like equalization fund, it has its own objectives. So we are saying in general public funds, they are funds that are created by the government as per the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, and it is meant to achieve its objective as stipulated by the Act. Some of the provisions that are put in place under the establishment of this includes provisions put in place. Includes let's see some of the provisions that have been put in place that guides the establishment of public funds. One of the provisions that is put in place is there should be a procedure that is put in place which is supposed to be followed in establishment and creation of this particular fund. That is a procedure. There should be a procedure. There should be a procedure and system to be followed in creation and there should be a procedure and a system to be followed in creation and operation of public funds. There should be a procedure and a system to be followed in creation and operation of public funds, simply because if we do not have procedures, if we do not have systems, then obviously we will have some problems. Some issues are likely to crop up. For instance, we can have like a misappropriation of these particular funds. So a procedure has to be put in place and a system need to be there which is supposed to be followed in the process of establishing or creating and operating these particular funds. The other thing that is supposed to be followed, and the other provision that is supposed to be there, that is provision number 2, is that an accounting system should be put in place that should appreciate accounting for this particular fund. So accounting system should be put in place. Accounting system should be put in place to ensure proper accounting of funds, proper accounting of the government funds. So we need to have an accounting system that is supposed to be followed in the process of accounting for this particular money. Otherwise, without an accounting system and we are dealing with the funds, obviously you find that there will be some challenges, there will be complaints, there will be dissatisfaction and such things. The other thing is, the other provision that is supposed to be followed is we need to ensure that this money that is received or public funds should be accounted for as per the provisions of the Act. That is, public funds should be accounted for as per the provisions, of the Act. We are saying that for everything that we are doing, especially when it comes to establishment of this particular fund, we follow our constitution. And therefore, the constitution is very, very clear on how we are supposed to account for public funds. And therefore, it is supposed to be, the accounting for that particular money is supposed to be done as the procedures that are stipulated in the Act. The other thing that we are supposed to have, or the other provision that we are supposed to have, is if we have to establish a public fund, then we must get an approval from the members of the National Assembly. That is to establish a public fund, an approval must be obtained from the members of the National Assembly, National Assembly, from the members of the National Assembly. Remember, we need to get approval of this because the members of the National Assembly, they are the one who make laws. And therefore, whatever can be any law that is passed in the country, and it end up affecting the country indirectly or negatively, then the members of the general public are likely to blame our members of parliament because they are there to make sure that what they are doing, the laws that they are coming up with, or how the country is run, at least they are putting an eye on everything. Because those are the members of the general public, they may not be able to follow up what is happening on day-to-day basis, and therefore we also need to make sure, we also need to ensure that any fund that is established, at least they have a take on it. We need to seek an approval from them so that at least we can be guaranteed that that particular fund is meant to benefit the members of the general public. The other thing is, as part of the public funds again, we expect also the CS or the cabinet secretary can also appoint somebody to administer this particular fund. You know, like in Kenya, with the new constitution, then we have the position of cabinet secretary, and therefore the cabinet secretary of finance can also appoint somebody who is empowered by the constitution to administer or to monitor what is happening in this particular public fund. So another provision is the cabinet secretary, the cabinet secretary of treasury can appoint an administrator to monitor the operations, operations of National Public Fund, Public Fund. We are saying that the CS also has power to appoint an administrator. We have that allowance in the constitution. The CS can appoint somebody, is allowed by the law to appoint an administrator in order to monitor the operations of the public funds, so that at least we can make sure that what is going on the same, maybe the CS is updated directly. Don't forget that the CS is answerable in case this money is misappropriated. We will request the CS to come up and tell us why that money was misappropriated and what. That is why we are empowering him to have somebody who can help him again to monitor the operations of such public funds. The other provision again that we have the Act is we also need to make sure that the financial statements are prepared and as at the end of every year, so that they can also be checked by the Auditor General, by CRA and such. So the other provision is preparation of financial statements, at the end of every financial year. Preparation of the financial statement as at the end of every financial year. Remember, this financial statement will reflect how that fund was being utilized, or how that money was being spent and all that. Therefore, when we prepare all these accounts, we need to account for that, and we prepare the final account. Remember, we maintain the records every day, every day, every day. But the person who is in charge of checking these particular records or verifying may not be interested so much with the day-to-day transactions. So we expect the person who is in charge to prepare the final accounts, and you hand over to the responsible persons. The other provisions that we have is we need to submit these final accounts to the Auditor General for audit purpose. That is, there should be submission of financial statements to the Auditor General for audit purpose. So remember, the Auditor General is there to check and give an assurance that the amount that was raised was utilized for the intended purpose. We need that particular assurance. That is why we expect the person who is in charge of these funds, or these funds accounting, should be done very, very well, proper recording. Then we prepare also the final statements, and we hand them over to the Auditor General so that the Auditor General can also go ahead and audit the same. We also expect, after you hand over the final accounts to the Auditor General, you also need to give a copy to the office of the to the National Treasury. You also need to give a copy of the same to CRA, Commissioner on Revenue Allocation. You also need to give another copy to the Controller of Budget. So the other provision that we need to have is that a copy of the financial statement, should be submitted to CRA, Commissioner on Revenue Allocation, Controller of Budget, and to the National Treasury, So we also expect to do that. You hand over such a copy to those particular offices and the persons. The other thing that we also need to know, still under the provisions of the of these particular public funds, is the CS also has power to wind up a public fund. So we can also see some provisions that are related to winding up of public funds. So here we can talk about provisions related to winding up of public fund. What does the law say about winding up of public funds? What does the law say about that? One thing is, the law says the Cabinet Secretary has power to wind up a public fund, but he cannot do that on his own. We expect to get an approval from the members of the National Assembly. So one provision under winding up is that the CS or the Cabinet Secretary can wind up a public fund, but with an approval of National Assembly, with an approval of National Assembly, with an approval of National Assembly. He cannot do it on his own. No, we expect to get an approval or a consent from the members of the General Assembly, because for you to wind up, you need to tell us why. Why are you winding up that particular fund? So all that justification need to be provided, and because the members of the National Assembly participated in approving the formation of the same, they also need to participate in winding up that particular fund, so that at least we may not make a mistake by winding up maybe a performing fund. The other thing that we also need to know about the winding up is we can be having some money in this particular fund. So what is our constitution providing on the same? Because sometimes the fund can be having money. Therefore, as far as our constitution is concerned, it states that in case the public fund is having some finances, that money is supposed to be deposited with the exchequer account, or it is supposed to be deposited with the government account. Therefore, we can say that if there is money in the public fund, it should be deposited. It should be deposited with the. It should be deposited with the exchequer. With the exchequer or government account. It should be deposited with the exchequer or the government account, because you cannot close the account yet we have the money, so that amount has again to be cleared with the same. The other thing is sometimes we can be having some arrears and what relating to these particular funds. So if there are arrears that we are having as far as these funds are concerned, then the person who is in charge can pay those particular arrears and deficit, but he must get an approval from the members of the National Assembly. So if there is arrears or deficit, then they can be paid, but approval needs to be obtained from the National Assembly. So the Constitution provides that in case of a deficit, in case of a deficit during winding up, it can be settled, but with approval from National Assembly. But with approval from the National Assembly. You cannot take the public fund, you make the payment, and you have not obtained an approval from the members of the National Assembly. The other provision that we are likely to have relating to winding up is the preparation of the final accounts and closing of the books. That is also during winding up, the financial statements should be prepared and be hardened or submitted to the responsible persons, e.g. auditors, National Assembly, etc. So again, when you are winding up, you need to make sure that again the records are okay, the records are up to date, so that again you can submit them to the persons who are involved, and then we make sure that they are subjected to proper verification, so that we can proceed with the procedure of winding up accordingly. So those are some of the provisions that we have relating to establishment and establishment of public funds in the public sector, relating to formation, relating to operations, and relating to winding up. So with that, we come to the end of our session today. So meaning that in our next class, we'll look at the justification of establishment of public fund, or the rationale of establishment of public funds. So thank you very much. So let's meet in the next class so that we can proceed with public funds. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to get yourself a copy of our professionally prepared study text and revision partners.
Welcome, learner, to our human resource management subject. We are looking at the topic of human resource management, which is training and development, in the continuing lecture series of manifested publishers. And we have been looking at the preliminary topics in the training and development topic. And the subtopics we have looked at have included objectives of training and development, which we have gone through. We have also looked at the learning organization. We have looked at the types of training. We have looked at training needs assessment. We have had a look at training design. We have had a lesson on implementing a training program. We have also looked at evaluation of training and development. We also had a chance to look at career management. We also looked at the subtopic of knowledge management. And in our lesson today, we are looking at talent management. So our topic today, our lesson today is talent management. Under our topic on training and development, talent management. So the first thing that learner you need to acquaint yourself with is that organizations are looking for talented workers who can make them be competitive, can make them work effectively and efficiently. So that talent has to be managed. This is what brings us to the top subtopic of talent management. So the question is, what is talent management? So the way talent management is used in human resource management, talent management is used to imply the utilization of an integrated set of activities that are focused to ensure that the organization attracts, retains, motivates, and develops the talented people it needs now or currently and for the future. So talent management, management refers to the utilization of a set of integrated activities that are focused on acquiring, attracting, motivating, and retaining talented employees that an organization needs currently and for the future. So, dear learner, talent management refers to the utilization of a set of integrated activities that are focused on acquiring, attracting, motivating, and retaining talented employees that an organization needs currently and for the future. So that then that is what is meant by talent management. So what are some of the elements of, we have talked about integrated activities, elements of talent management. Elements of talent management. So what are the things? What are these integrated activities? So one, resourcing strategy. An organization has to put in place the tactics resourcing strategy. An organization has to put in place a strategy that it will be able to utilize to be able to get employees in the short term and the long term, so that for the next 5 years, for the next 6 years, the next 15 years, there is a resourcing strategy in terms of how it will get workers and how it will maintain a particular pool of employees in that particular organization who are enough or who have the right skills, the right qualities, and in the right numbers. Then there is the element of attraction and retention policies. So the second one, attraction and retention policies and procedures. Attraction and retention policies and procedures. So that again becomes an aspect that the organizations must ensure that they have an attraction and retention policies and procedures that they can be able to use as a guideline to be able to attract and retain talents. Then number 3, when it comes to another element of talent management, there is the aspect of talent audit. So talent audit means the organization has to be able to do an internal and external audit to find out what are the talents that that organization has, so that they can be able to develop those particular talent. Then there is the element of role development, element of role development, role development. An organization has to be able to come up with roles, and these roles are supposed to be developed and people populated or people put in those particular roles. So you model a role, you put there a role, you develop workers and so on, and those workers are modeled on those particular roles to be able to achieve particular targets that are now set by that particular organization. Then there's the element of talent relationship management. Talent relationship, talent relationship management, talent relationship management. So here there will be different talents within an organization. So how these talents are related and managed in that particular organization and harnessed will be an important element of talent utilization within that particular organization, so that synergy is created, so that the talents are put in place, they are put to work together, they are challenged and so on, and that becomes an element of talent management that is supposed to be handled in an organization effectively. Then there is the element of performance management. The kind of performance management, the kind of performance management that is done in terms of setting targets. The targets that are set under talent management are supposed to be targets that the employees strive, and the environment of appraising that performance is supposed to be such that it supports the approach of talented workers who can be able to at least be measured with the far or overreaching targets. Instead of setting very low targets, talented workers require very high targets, require very involving targets to be able to manage them effectively in terms of their expectations. So performance management is also critical. Then there's the element of total reward. Total reward. The kinds of rewards that are attached to talented workers are supposed to be competitive rewards. So the rewards should be competitive enough to attract and retain these particular talents. And in some cases, you may even have what you call performance-related rewards, and then you have a package for these talented workers. And once you do it that way, it is possible that workers can be retained and attracted because of the kind of total reward or package that they are given. Then talented workers require learning and development. Learning and development. Learning and development. So what this implies is that the kind of learning and development that is put in place for purposes of managing talent should be learning and development that is focused towards the growing of the talents that employees have. So this learning and development is supposed to be learning and development that is continuous, learning and development that is meant to grow talent. And that is how talented workers can be attracted, they can be maintained, and they can also be made to grow. And also the career management. There must be deliberate efforts to manage careers. Career management. So the career management processes that an organization adopts must be career management processes that can support those talents in that particular organization, so that the talents can stay, the talents can make a contribution, the talents can continuously be engaged. So these ones are some of the elements that are supposed to be visible in a talent management program within an organization, which may involve the resourcing strategy, number one, attracting and retention policies and procedures, talent audit, role development, talent relationship management, performance management, total reward, which is supposed to be comprehensive and competitive, learning and development opportunities, and career development. So these ones, dear learner, are some of the elements of talent management that organizations are supposed to put in place. So the question then comes, what are some of the attraction strategies that organizations can put in place to attract and retain talents? Attraction strategies. Attraction strategies. Strategies for talent. Attraction strategies for talented workers. Attraction strategies for talented workers. So what are some of the things that organizations can do? So one of the things that can be done, one, employer branding. Employer branding. Number two, employer of choice. Employer of choice. Number three, competitive total reward. Total reward. Number four, involvement of employees in recruitment. Number five, targeted recruitment. Number six, provision of modern technology to employees. Number seven, adoption of flexible work systems. Number eight, open door communication systems. Number nine, employee engagement. So open door communication systems, workers are involved in decision making, employee engagement. And number 10, creation of autonomous work groups. So dear learner, some of the strategies that an organization can put in place could be for them to be able to attract and attraction strategies. These ones are attraction strategies for talented workers. So these are both attraction strategies and also strategies for retention of talented workers. What can organizations do? So organizations can have employer branding, where an organization is branded such that the organization is visible, the organization stands out as a brand. Then that one will attract high-flying workers and talented workers. The employer can also be able to position themselves as an employer of choice, so that whenever workers are looking for an employer, that employer stands out. There is also the aspect of competitive total reward, which can be comprehensive and attractive and a market leader in terms of the pay structures that are provided. So that again could be an area where an organization can be able to use to attract and retain talented workers. Involvement of employees in the recruitment process. When employers are recruiting, they can also inform employees that we are carrying out a recruitment process, and employees who are interested can be able to at least apply for positions. They can also be able to refer others. Then there's the element of targeted recruitment. For example, an organization can go to colleges, universities, or training institutions and get the fresh graduates, or get graduates who have the requisite knowledge they are looking for. So that targeted recruitment can make them be able to get the best that there is in the market. Number 6, provision of modern technology. So workers can be given technology so that employees who are tech savvy can be able to operate and work with the modern machines and modern technology, that one will endear that organization to talented workers. Then there is the element of adoption of flexible working system, where employees, for example, can say they want to work from remote areas or they want to work virtually. So these virtual working processes can also be able to endear talented workers who can be able to work and do their work at any one given time, even if they are away. So that again can be able to attract and retain talented employees using what we call an open door communication system. Two-way communication system, employees, employers, employees among employees. So open door communication system can bring in ideas, can also bring in innovation. So that is one way also of attracting and retaining high caliber employees. An organization can also ensure employees are highly engaged and also involved in decision making. So that again becomes an attraction point. And number 10, an organization can create creation of autonomous work groups where authority is delegated to those particular groups or teams that can be able to work independently and so on. So dear learner, in our lesson today that has been very interesting in relation to talent management, which is a subtopic under training and development in our subject on human resource management, we have looked at what is meant by talent management, and we have indicated that talent management refers to the utilization of a set of integrated activities that are focused on acquisition or acquiring, attracting, motivating, and retaining talented employees that an organization needs for its current needs and future needs. That is talent management. And the elements of talent management we have indicated may include resourcing strategy, number 1, attraction and number 2, attraction and retention policies and procedures. Number 3, talent audit. Number 4, role development, where it's clarified. Number 5, talent relationship management. Number 6, performance management. Number 7, element of talent management is the total reward, which we have said should be competitive. Should be competitive to be able to attract the best in the market and so on. Then number 8, learning and development opportunities. And number 9, career management. So these 9 are among the elements of talent management. Then we have again gone ahead and looked at attraction strategies for talented workers that organizations can be able to adopt, and we have indicated that an employer can have what you call employer branding, number 1. Number 2, the employer can position themselves to be an employer of choice when it comes to employment. Number 3, competitive total reward system can be created. Number 4, involvement of employees in the recruitment process. Number 5, targeted recruitment, for example, at colleges, at universities, and other training institutions. Number 6, provision of modern technology. Number 7, adoption of flexible working systems, for example, virtually or working from home. Adopting number 8, adopting an open door communication system where employees can come in with innovative ways of how to do things. Number 9, employee engagement, where employees are involved in decision making. And number 10, creation of an autonomous work groups. These are some of the strategies organizations can put in place in the short term and in the long term to be able to attract and retain talented, best caliber workers. So dear learner, in our lesson today, which was talented management, we have looked at what is meant by talent management, and we have also looked at elements of talent management, and we have also looked at the attraction and retention strategies for talented workers. So the assignment for today, dear learner, I want you to elaborate on the benefits that may accrue to an organization that attracts and retains talented workers. Assignment. Your assignment for today, elaborate on the benefits that may accrue to an organization that attracts and retains talented workers. So your assignment, dear learner, is elaborate on the benefits that may accrue to an organization that attracts and retains talented workers. So that is your assignment for our lesson today, which was on talent management, which is a subtopic in training and development in our continuing lecture series of manifested publishers on the subject of human resource management. So thank you very much for being attentive.
Hello learner, welcome back to our class. I want us to continue with the topic of earnings management and quality of earnings. So in our previous classes, we have managed to cover on various subtopics. In the first class, we looked on the various types of earnings, or basically the types of profits. In our previous session, or in our previous class, we looked on how we compute the basic earnings per share and also the diluted earnings per share. I want us to proceed and look on the other subtopic in that topic of earnings management and quality of earnings, and that is the topic of segmental reporting, which is covered by all supposed now to be done in accordance with IFRS 8. So mean that we look on the topic of segmental reporting. Now, in this particular subtopic here, which is still a fall under that particular main topic of earnings management and quality of earnings, we are expected to cover, or we are supposed to cover a number of areas here. One, we shall be looking on the definition of an operating segment. Operating segment as per IFRS 8. We're also going to look on what or the criteria used by an entity in terms of identifying what is a reportable segment.